Hey guys, I've been working on some slow stitching, and I said in the titles that it was going to include some some Sashiko, and I did start one little piece on here, but I decided that, there's a lot of people that aren't quite familiar with what this is. So, I'm going to set this page that I've been working on aside for a few minutes. And what it is this is a Japanese method of stitching. And it's really beautiful. Now, traditionally, they only use white thread, but they're doing it for garments. I'm not. But actually, if I wanted to, this one that I'm going to show you how to do could be used as a knee patch on a kid's pair of pants, elbow patch anywhere if you wanted to. But I'm doing them for texture books, for fabric books. So mine will be done differently. Now, let me find just a straight piece. To truly do it, and I can't do that on these pieces, the method is you do not pull your needle. You pull your fabric. So let's say if I went in, just kept weaving back and forth, in and out, in and out, in and out. And then I got some on there, I would come down here and pull the fabric off of the needle. Well, maybe I would. I would pull the fabric off of the needle rather than pull the needle through. But for, purposes of this video, and because of the pattern here, I can't do that. So here we go. The Japanese would thicken their fabrics by sewing patches and sewing pieces together to make it warmer. It was not so much a culture thing, but a finance thing. I want to say, if they didn't have the money. Did I just do that? Yes, I did. They didn't have the money to go out and buy new clothes. They could reinvent what they had. Well, pretty much like what most of us do with crafting. We are reinventing things. So, you take traditionally it is like a darker blue and white. And again, I'm going to emphasize the white, but I'm not using white. I don't think I did white on any of it, as a matter of fact. But what you do is you can take anything that's white and draw a pattern onto the blue, whatever you want to stitch. Make it just straight lines, curved lines, but all lines, no fanciness. Now this one is a little fancier because they're kind of overlapping, but it's basically the same pattern, it's just overlapping. So I'm going to start this here. And like I said before, I can't go and pull the fabric. I have to pull the needle because of the size of it. There is some beautiful clothing that they've made with some fantastic designs on them. I mean, wow. A lot of the kimonos, I believe, have used this practice. But I'm just not that, I quit sewing clothes when my kids were little, when they started insisting on store-bought. But the thing is, it's relaxing, it's not challenging at all, and it gives a different pattern to your work that, you're working on. If you wanted to turn this into a cluster and put stuff around the side, excuse me, you can basically do anything you want to with it. You can draw anything you want to on it. If you're clever enough to draw flowers with straight lines, or, I saw one lady back in the 70s that drew family members' faces on white cotton. And then she would stitch them, and oh my goodness. Now they say this is Japanese culture, but I was introduced to this type of stitching to a friend from the Philippines back in the 70s. She had married an American GI and came to the United States. And what we would do, there were two ladies named Barbara and myself and her, Annette. We would get all the kids on the school bus in the mornings. And the husband's off to work, and we meet at Annette's. And that wasn't her real name. Matter of fact, that was her American name. But we would save all of our kids' clothes they'd outgrown or we couldn't pass down, or, you know, stuff that was just ragged out. But we would cut them up, and we would all meet at her house probably 2 or 3 times a week, I think. But we would start stitching and talking and having our coffee. And then as we kept going, we talked less, and we would just sit there with our own thoughts, and, you know, somebody would joke, wow, we sure got quiet in here fast. And we'd all kind of giggle, but we would still be quiet because this was our time, our downtime. The kids were gone. You know, it was just a bonding time for 4 ladies. And what we did was we would do them in wide strips. I would say they were probably 3 foot wide and 6 foot long. And, yeah, it took us a while. I mean, we didn't get them done in one day. But, we could draw anything we wanted to on them. She would, then hand sew all these strips together. And she mailed them back to the Philippines, to her family, as blankets for them to lay on and cover up with. So, you know, we loved being a part of that and learning about her culture, and she'd always fix us a meal from her country that day, and it was just a great bonding, sharing experience, and something I hadn't thought about for years until recently when a friend said that they were going to be doing some slow stitching, and I said, well, I'm going to look that up because I haven't really, you know, checked it out. Is it embroidery? What is slow stitching? Well, basically, slow stitching is what I learned to do when I was 6 years old to make handmade quilts. But when I got to looking at the way they were putting things together, it reminded me of my little girl, well, my little women's group that used to always get together to make blankets to send back to the Philippines. So, and it was a big deal. We would do it all year long, and at Christmas time, she would send huge boxes back to her family, and some of it would be repaired clothing that, you know, they could use, but it was all beautiful when it was finished. So, yes, there is a difference between slow stitching and the Japanese stitching, because the Japanese stitching creates a pattern. And yes, traditionally it's all the blue and the white, but, you know, there's no right or wrong to it. You can use your own creativity. Because, I mean, to me, this would look fantastic with like a gold sequin or gold metallic roping or thread and sewing it together, but I have all this stuff here I'm using up, so it's part of my busting my stash. So I'm going to be making just different sizes, and what I'm going to do is I will make different sizes in the Japanese stitch, and then I will incorporate it with my slow stitch that I am making to make fabric books with. Like I said, I have one here that I've started on this one, and I have another one here that I have started. I don't know why I have so many started. But draw your just straight lines in any page, and you can do them straight up and down the page if you want. You don't have to do any design really, till you get used to doing it and pushing and pulling the needle. Now I would suggest you do the straight lines first and learn to pull the fabric, because it's really fast going that way. It doesn't take any time at all, and you kind of lose yourself in what you're doing. But you can do it any way you want. You can do it on white and use colored floss, thread, whatever you want to sew it with. But it is really very relaxing, very fun. So this is the difference between slow stitching and Japanese style stitching, because you are creating a pattern, and you could stitch this onto anything you wanted to, clothing wise, and you know, dress up an old garment. I don't know if your kids will wear it in today's society, but I think it's cute. I think it's different. I think it's unique. And it's not because it's been around for thousands of years. It's just more relaxing to me than the slow stitching, I guess. And that's why I keep getting quiet on you. My mind is going back to the 1970s. Wow, what was it? 77, 78? Wow. Yeah, it was. Because I would get my son off to school, and my daughter was a baby. And she was born in 77, so yeah, I mean, she was a tiny baby. So, actually, I think I started this while I was on maternity leave with her from work. So yeah, wow, it has been ages, but...
I'm gonna walk then. You hear me?
Okay guys, I'm sorry. My husband knows when I'm videoing. And he will stand in the hallway and holler, "I'm gonna walk the dogs. Do you hear me?" He knows I hear him. The neighbors hear him. He's just trying to get me to respond while I'm making a video. He is annoying. He is a jokester. And I bet he just left here without taking the people in the cul-de-sac package to him too. Mailman delivered their powdered Italian dressing to us, and my husband opened it. He says, "You got mail?" I said, "No, that's not mine. I don't know what that is. Why would I have powdered Italian dressing?" And we looked at the box, and sure enough, it was there. Well, we're missing 2 packages, so I told him, take it over there and see if ours is on their porch. So this is going to be the design. It's going to go the whole thing and go around. And if you want to, you can stitch the outside. I probably won't. And then I will put some different little elements on the outside of it. Oh, I need to cut that straight. But it will be part of one of my pages in something. It could even be used as a pocket eventually if I sew down the centers. So, you know, just play around with it, have fun. Don't stress, just have fun. That's the goal. But this is the difference. For the Japanese style stitching is a pattern. It is a decoration. The slow stitching is, you can do them in patterns, but that's more like needlepoint. More like cross stitch. So that's the difference. And most of the time, the Japanese style is geometrical. Now, I'm saying the Japanese style. I know the Filipino style is mostly like a Zentangle design on the fabric. And you just use something white to draw it on there with, and just draw it in straight little lines. And then stitch it, and you have what you want to put on your work. So give it a try. I hope you will. Then I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.